Now, ladies and gentlemen, just a little under a week ago, we saw Valve updated CS2 twice, which is also the same time we saw one of the biggest updates yet. And just a couple nights ago, the CS devs just hit us with another one, that of course being an update. Now, it's nothing huge, but it's basic fixes and quality of life updates. Now, this most recent blog being so small, it also makes me think we'll see something bigger in the coming days. Today's video, we're gonna go over this most recent blog post / update and also have a discussion on the current state of CS2, that being with the declining player count, the market decline, but most importantly, the game itself. Now, today's video sponsor is SkinsMonkey. SkinsMonkey is a buying and trading marketplace for your CS items. It makes a safe and easy way to trade out your inventory for something new. By using my code MANDO, you can get a deposit bonus of 35% alongside a free $5 in your first trade, with a max bonus if you spend $100 or more. With a large variety of skins, deposit options, alongside daily, weekly, and monthly giveaways, they're doing a great job rivaling other competition. If interested, it'll be at the top of the link in the description below. Now, firstly, for today's video, when did this update start? Like always, hours before, we saw a few DPR updates and then an official tweet from Valve. Now, the reaction to this update was somewhat to be expected with such a small blog. And of course, you have people asking for new content, but also to fix simple bugs like the elevator peak, which is now a couple weeks old. And based off a lot of the comments on Twitter towards Valve and this most recent update, some players are currently panicking. And in my opinion, the reason why is I don't think anyone knows how Valve could fix the game or make it better with one single update, which is true, they can. It's gonna take some time, possibly a few months to possibly a year. With all that being said, let's hop into the blog post. Now, the release notes for November 13th. To clarify, this is a couple days old, but it is the most recent one and I haven't covered it here on the channel. We had some other commentaries in the works and I didn't get around to recording this in time, so sorry for that. At least nothing here is all random, not miscellaneous, it's just one category, that being gameplay, because it's probably needed the most here. Now, first up, they fixed a bug where collision between players was sometimes causing players to step up. They fixed a bug where players could slide up walls and mirage mid. You can almost self-boost yourself cat, so I'm glad that's done. They fixed a movement systems bug where players could get stuck on geometry. Fixed a bug that prevented zoom button, hold, repeat, disabled from working correctly. They fixed a case where switching between weapons immediately after shooting would result in a shot not registering on the server. I think this has happened to me quite a bit with the op, so I'm glad that's fixed. They fixed a case where players could not shoot during the freeze time at the end of warm-up, halves, and matches. And that pretty much concludes the blog. It's pretty small. Now, next up, I want to talk about Valve's update cycle and why this is small and how we can see something big soon. In previous weeks, Valve's update cycle, when we see a small blog like this, sometimes 1 to 3 days later, we'll see something a lot bigger. Sometimes you have 7+ categories of what actually got fixed, and a very big miscellaneous category with skins as well. Based off recent events and also evidence, that makes me think we'll probably see something either tonight or sometime by Friday. Now, another thing to note, which some will say here that I'm just looking on the bright side of things, and that is, so far CS2 has received more updates than CSGO ever did, even in its biggest bug era. Hitboxes were broken, and players were leaving, and also not to mention the end of CSGO, where we had maybe one blog post every 2 to 3 weeks at most. In my opinion, right now, the devs currently know what needs to be done, and these fixes from this most recent update, for an example, seem small, but are important to make the game better for the long term. And that pretty much concludes this most recent update. Now let's discuss the current state of CS2. At this point in time, 25% of the player base has left, and it's still climbing. For a lot of people, it's very odd to see since there hasn't been this much of a dip, it feels like, in years. And with players leaving, the declining player count happening, and the game just not everyone loving it, it's caused a big debate amongst players whether there's new content coming to CS2 or not. Most importantly, will new content coming to CS2 actually fix the game? Most people jumping to assumptions are going to say yes. We have to look back at CSGO for some history here. Let's take the last 2 years from CSGO for an example. The game didn't really receive too many updates like we talked about at the beginning. The last year we saw one blog post maybe once a month, not because the game was near perfect, but because Valve was working on CS2. That's not what makes a Counter-Strike game so popular and brings new players in necessarily. You have to look at the core game itself, that being the gameplay and just, well, the mechanics overall. Now, with this recent decline in the player count, with CS2 being released now for over a month, there was also big discussion if those people leaving were bot accounts and banned players, which I thought was kind of silly because since there's so many of them, I think there are some, yes, but the majority of those players leaving, I believe, are real players, real people that played CSGO maybe on a daily or weekly basis. And with this declining player count, I now want to discuss who is actually leaving CS. What group or community of people is dipping? They're just leaving. They're done with Counter-Strike, it seems to be for now. In my opinion, based off some of my friends I've played with and setups I've played on to test out CS2, I think a huge percentage of the players leaving is due to bugs and basic optimization. It doesn't take too much research. All you have to do is look at the charts on Steam to see what most CS players are running, or the majority of Steam users, to see what their current PCs are, to see what kind of performance they'd get in CS2, or just get an idea. And a lot of people are running older GPUs. Not every single person, but there's a fair share, if not the majority of players on Steam. A lot of people are running 1650s, 1660s, 1660 Ti's, and 10 and even 20 series cards. And right now, CS2 is not very well optimized for those people, that being the majority of the player base, and that's a pretty big problem. Now, if you're bottlenecking where you have a really good GPU, a bad CPU, and the other way around, and whether you play CS2 or not, yeah, you're gonna have to upgrade at some point in time. And Valve right now needs to find a way where those players can come back and not have to worry about performance. Having a 30 and 40 series card and not bottlenecking, but having a really bad performance on the game where you're only getting 200 FPS at max settings, yeah, that's a pretty big issue. Now, what we'll next go into, but also some workarounds for also crashing, is reverting your drivers back just a few updates. This is what I suggest to do, and it's helped quite a bit of people, including myself. Right now, it seems to be from every update aside from the last 3, the game's performance declines. Last week, I saw a 50% FPS dip on 2 different maps, which eventually got fixed, but wasn't even included in the blog post. And something like this needs to be addressed immediately. Now, this didn't happen to everybody. It's probably, the odd man out here, but it just needs to get fixed. It needs to get solved. And like we just mentioned, crashing is a whole nother thing. Lower NPCs or the average CSGO player setups, coming from experience, but also having friends that crash every game, it happens 1 to 3 times a game, and it's a pretty big issue. In order to move forward with a healthy future, Valve needs to optimize and make the game better for most CSGO players, because that's a majority, if not all, of the CS player base. Not to mention, those are also a lot of the people who are leaving. Now, to clarify for the 2 comments I'll get asking me to address this, yes, of course, these aren't all the reasons and problems people are leaving. Some players have left due to the lack of content from CSGO currently in CS2 that's missing, but also a lot of players don't like the new sub-tick and VAC live system. I don't want to be the bearer of bad news, but I don't believe Valve is going to change either. They're not going to revert back to the old tick system. They like this new system. They've said it's better than the old system. They've also put way too much work to just scrap it all now. I could see VAC Live get some more updates in the future, but that's a big what if. Playing to 10 to 15,000 ranking in Premier in North America, I haven't run across too many cheaters, and so far no one that's completely blatant. Maybe it's just blind luck, but I also have 5 to 10 friends that have said the same thing. When CS2 first released, it was kind of hard to tell if someone was cheating because you couldn't go back and review a demo. In CS2, it is a lot easier to hit headshots, but also hear people just in general around the map. And with the whole peeker's advantage thing, with those things as well, there could be other reasons why you think someone else is cheating when they're just using what they have in game. I'm not saying cheaters are non-existent, they're going to be everywhere for the history of time. If that's CSGO, Valorant, Minecraft, or even Fortnite. And now it feels like this is just a rant, but I keep continuously seeing comments about people talking about Overwatch in CSGO, not in here in CS2, and how it was a great feature of CSGO, and it was great, and it got rid of cheaters all the time. And no, it really didn't. Why didn't you complain about it in CSGO then towards the very end? It wasn't even in the game for the last few months. No one batted an eye then, why are people batting an eye now? And when it was in the game, no one even ever used it. And half the time you would report players on there, they would never get banned. And almost 99% of the time in the last 2 years, Overwatch was available. There was a cheater every single time. Now, hopefully you guys enjoyed that commentary and update video. We'll have a video later this week discussing the market and how right now it seems like a weird and uncertain future for investing. Many players may be better off staying out of the market until we know where the game's going. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Stay positive, stay sexy. I'm out, guys. Peace.